Yo! What's up, guys? I know, it's been a minute. I went AWOL there for about a week, but life happens. Especially this life I chose, so had to take some time and energy to deal with it. But that happened, now we're back cracking, and as you can see, things are a little different. Got some new toys. First of all, new chair. It spins. It's got armrests. I can sit back and chill if I want. I got a new mic stand, actually, so microphone's in my face now. Feel like I should record a mixtape in it. And then lastly, we're working off a tablet now. You might notice the screen's a little bit different. I got a little more room here. I'm not relegated to this like little rectangle over here. Rather than streaming from my laptop screen, I'm streaming from the tablet. So you see what I see there. And I think this is going to make things a little bit smoother, a little bit better from now on. Of course, you guys will let me know how you feel in the comments. I'm just kidding. I love you guys. So, man, it's been a minute and so many different things to talk about, but I'm just going to touch on, some of the major things that I've seen over the last few days that I want to catch up with. We'll talk 8kun. We'll talk some of the hate that Q is getting, and that website's not even up yet. And also FISA gate coming down the pipeline, and then some stuff on aliens, UFOs. You know, I saw Edward Snowden saying some weird things on Joe Rogan. So we'll go through all of that. And check it out. I can even like write on the screen too. I'm going to get distracted with this, surely. Whoop. Is that working on the screen? Oh, it is. Check it out. Okay. Anyway. Let's move on. Let's start off with 8kun. So, Code Monkey, Ron, 8chan administrator, he has been tweeting some updates over the last week or two, every few days, and he's got an update for us as of yesterday on Project Odin, as they're calling it, Project Odin, and they're looking at launching this particular project of theirs ASAP. A lot of people are asking what Project Odin is, and this is one of Ron's pinned tweets, his pinned tweet, on his Twitter account, and it's from last December, like 9-10 months ago. They've been working on this for a long time. But it basically says here, my team just implemented the first anonymous text board built from the ground up with blockchain technology. So basically, sounds like the platform that 8kun is going to be running on. It's a super secure, blockchain-based, anonymous text board. And as Ron says here, it's going to stand tall and defend free speech for a long, long time. So, Project Odin, sounds like 8kun's going to be on that, and days away, we're hoping, days away. Sounds like it's days away from all the hate that 8kun's already getting right here. Huffington Post, a few days ago, 8chan is trying to come back as 8kun, and the founder is trying to stop it. So the founder no longer owns 8chan or 8kun. Jim Watkins is the current owner. The person who founded it is this guy. His name's Frederick Brennan, and I believe he sold it to Watkins in like 2016, if I'm getting that right. But nevertheless, over the last few months, Frederick Brennan's been on this like asinine tear, this personal vendetta he seems to have against Jim Watkins and 8chan and Q for whatever reason. And he's doing some crazy stuff, some stuff that just totally tears his credibility down. As you can see here, he was doing an interview. He's been doing interviews with mainstream media outlets. This quote here in this CBS report, Frederick Brennan was saying Snopes will fact check anything that, of course, might be fake news in regards to 8chan. I even saw Frederick Brennan saying Vice was reputable news. Just stupid stuff. That's you can easily see through, tear down his arguments. So it's, I don't know, whether it's money, whether it's personal vendetta, blackmail, I don't know what it is. For some reason, Frederick Brennan's just going nuts. And he's claiming that he's the reason 8kun's not up yet because he's getting all their IP addresses banned from their hosters. So you can do what you want with that information. Moving on to Jim Watkins' reply to this Huffington Post story here. Back to this HuffPost story, you can see their lines. Months, QAnon conspiracy theorists have been anxiously awaiting the return of 8chan, the extremist-friendly message board that's integral to the far-right fringe movement. Just some horseshit coming out of HuffPo. Jim Watkins you know, current 8chan owner, 8kun, he literally hand-penned this response to the Huffington Post. He live streamed it on his YouTube channel as well, and then he posted it here on one of his company's Twitter accounts. And he basically said, you know, if you can read cursive, I don't know if those millennials at the Huffington Post can read cursive, but anyway, says, "Dear sirs," dear sirs, man, can I even read cursive? "In your recent story titled 8chan is trying to come back as 8kun, its founder is trying to stop it by Jesslyn Cook. You repeatedly link both my company, myself, and QAnon," actually writes QAnon in here, "to mass shootings and active violence. Nothing could be further from the truth." Of course, do they even have evidence that these manifestos were posted on 8chan? No, they don't. It's just a line that they run with and repeat over and over again to hopefully get people to accept it as truth. But repetition doesn't mean truth. So, there you go. Interesting little thing there. And moving on now from 8kun, which will hopefully be up in just a few days here, let's talk Q. So I want to discuss this here article I've seen, gosh, shared everywhere. It's been shared with me multiple different ways. And it's about this retired general by the name of Paul Vallely supposedly confirming the existence of Q in an interview. I mean, granted, I didn't need a interview from, even if it is a retired general, from anybody to confirm the existence of Q for me. But let's talk about this, okay? I've seen it shared around. I've seen people automatically accept this the case. First, let's take a look at who retired General Paul Vallely is. This is a quick shot of his Wikipedia page. As you can see there's his photo. And he's a retired U.S. Army Major General, senior military analyst for Fox News. This is what Wikipedia says, though. Don't know if he's currently at that job. He served in the Vietnam War, retired in '93 as Deputy Commanding General, Pacific Command. So he's got a repertoire, you know? A lot of stuff there behind his name. Now, this is what was said in that interview. Right here, General Vallely. Now, first of all, this was an interview with Internet Radio in Canada. So that's a piece of information for you there in discerning this. General Vallely offered the following. He said QAnon is information that comes out of a group called the Army of Northern Virginia. This is a group of military intelligence specialists of over 800 people. He says the president does not have a lot of confidence in the CIA or DIA. Probably true. And much more. So the president relies on real operators who are mostly special operations type people. This is where Q picks up some of his information, and some other things were talked about in there. Now, first of all, disregarding who is saying this, let's just look at the claim presented, right? Let's just call it from source A. I don't care if it's from a general, this person, that person. Let's just look at the claim presented, okay? Taking away all that back-end stuff. He's saying QAnon is info that comes out of a group called the Army of Northern Virginia. I've never heard that. I've never seen that said in Q's posts. And doing a really quick, just basic Google search on the Army of Northern Virginia, I got a bunch of stuff from like the Revolutionary War 100 years ago, nothing current. And also, it just seems to me, you know, as Q has said before, no outside comms. It just seems odd to me that this would be leaked out in any way, you know? Feels like it would harm operational security in some way. I don't know. This just seems weird to me to come out. So I'm not automatically believing this, but I'm not automatically throwing it away now either. Okay, so we went through that. But here's one thing that I'm seeing a lot of people miss, okay? So we looked at the claims. Now let's look at the source, General Paul Vallely. I've never really heard of the guy before, except for doing a quick search of him once I saw this article come out. And one thing I did find in the search, though, that just brought up a red flag for me, okay? And I haven't seen any sort of information that lets me put this red flag down. General Paul Vallely, back in 1980, wrote a paper. And he wrote a paper called PSYOP to Mind War. I'm going to give him my little markup thing here. Yeah. From PSYOP to Mind War is a paper written in 1980, The Psychology of Victory. Who did he write this paper with? I hope you can see that little name there. Michael Aquino, of all people. He co-wrote this paper in 1980 with Michael Aquino on PSYOPs and Mind Wars. Now, who is Michael Aquino. Let's take a look here. This is Michael Aquino. Just do a search of him. Do a quick search. You'll get all sorts of interesting stuff come up. Michael Aquino was an individual who was in military intelligence in the Army. He left the military as a lieutenant colonel, and he was an open Satanist. He practiced with Anton LaVey there of the Satanic Church in like the late 60s, 70s, something like that. So we got, there's Anton LaVey there. And he founded the Temple of Set. Set being like the Egyptian god Set to practice their satanic stuff with back in 1975. He was a high priest when he was at the Satanic Church before he founded the Temple of Set. There's a lot of peculiar allegations about Michael Aquino and his involvement in maybe some child abuse cases around the country in the late 1980s Presidio case there in San Francisco area and possibly even the Franklin cover-up in Nebraska. So he's got a history. Do your research on that guy. It's pretty weird stuff. But my question is, why the heck did this guy write a paper with Mr. Satanist here about psyops and mind wars, and now we're getting all this interesting information on Q that I've never heard before, and it's not corroborated by anything and all this stuff, you know? So like I said, it's just a red flag that is up there that, like I said, I don't have anything to put that down. So this is information that I just want people to discern properly. Have the full picture so you can discern it, and we have to be very careful with what information we share as fact. I see a lot of stuff go through the grapevine, and people just, oh, it sounds nice, fits my confirmation bias, it fits what I want to believe right now, so I'm going to share it and accept it as truth. But we got to be better thinkers than that, you know? So moving on from that particular topic, let's talk about, still on satanic abuse, but moving on to different concept there. Let's discuss what came out of the FBI records vault yesterday. So a dump about what's called the Finders. And the Finders is a DC area cult with allegations against it that there were satanic ritual abuses of children back in the 1980s that the CIA helped cover up. Man, seems to be their MO, right? Or rogue operators there, covering up all sorts of trafficking and weird stuff that goes on. So the Finders is this DC cult, bunch of weird stuff going on with it. The FBI vault drops their dump of the Finders yesterday, whatever information they have, some slight redactions in there, but a lot of info on this particular organization, the DC police investigations into it, how they were stifled, what they were finding. Man, you can just go to this tweet, and a lot of people have been posting screenshots and info dumps under this FBI records vault tweet. So what I think we're seeing now is just bits and pieces to prepare us for this sort of stuff hitting. Remember, in that FISA IG report, what's coming? What's coming out? We're going to hear a lot about the Clinton Foundation, the Clintons, right? It's not just the spying. We're starting to see that disclosure ball rolling about these really hard, you know, the deep, dark occult topics, which is a massive piece of disclosure. If you're going to call it disclosure with a capital D, you know, a lot of people think, oh, disclosure is just UFOs, or disclosure is just this or that, or the spying. No, it's everything. It's everything, and it's all connected in these little ways, you know? The spying that we're going to see uncovered with FISA is going to lead to a lot of stuff with the Clinton Foundation. And, oh, what's this? These satanic rituals and all these secret societies going on over here. Man, why are some folks involved in the satanic allegations over here messing in the UFO community? You know, it's everything. So, rant done there. Let's move on to, there's just a Google search I did on the Founders, you know, some Steemit articles, some other ones, some mainstream media articles from like the 80s, back when the mainstream media was a little controlled. Not as controlled as it is now, but you can find a little bit of info out there about the Finders, which, God, if we're talking about child abuse and that sort of stuff, the Finders, what a sick name for that shit. Anyway, moving on to FISA. So Michael Horowitz finalizing a FISA probe. He said in letters to the Senate and the House to Congress, Justice Department Inspector General Horowitz said that his report is almost done. Thanks for the super chats, guys. I got the chat box right here in front of me. A lot of things to keep track of right now, but I appreciate your support. Well, let's move on into, or let's keep going with the FISA IG report. It's almost done, and that's exactly why this has been reported. The DOJ upgrading this Russia Origins probe, as they're calling it, to a criminal investigation. Now, a few things about this. It's gone around in the last couple of days. Number one, this isn't really that surprising. I mean, anybody following Q pretty well and a lot of YouTube channels and accounts like mine out there, this is just, we know this, right? A lot of other people have figured this out. For a long time, it's either already there, or it's going to lead to a criminal investigation. But what I found interesting is that I'm pretty sure the New York Times was the first outlet to report on this. You can see their article there from the 24th, 2 days ago, 7:54 p.m. Eastern Time. I think they were the first ones to break this story. So that being said, you know, if it's the New York Times breaking this story, that means they're just, they're giving up bits and pieces of the story to retreat. They're in retreat mode right now. So they're giving up bits and pieces to frame the narrative with, right? So they're okay with giving up the fact that, yeah, it's a criminal inquiry by now, or it has been for a long time, if not a year plus. But Durham's been looking into this for a while. They're giving up this story to get ahead of it. Let's take a look at what they're writing here. So we'll pretty much just take a look at the first line of every paragraph. For more than 2 years, President Trump has repeatedly attacked the Russia investigation, portraying it as a hoax and illegal even months after the special counsel closed it. The Justice Department officials have shifted an administrative review of the Russia investigation closely overseen by AG Barr to criminal inquiry, according to two people familiar with the matter. Another one of those mainstream media propaganda lines. According to sources familiar with it. According to anonymous sources. According to this source, that source. Who? Who's your damn source? The opening of a criminal investigation is likely to raise alarms that Mr. Trump is using the Justice Department to go after his perceived enemies. Mr. Trump has made it clear that he sees the typically independent Justice Department as a tool to be wielded against his political enemies. Enemies. So they're just trying to frame Mr. Trump as the bad guy, get ahead of the story, because no doubt this is going to lead to criminal prosecutions, likely, you know, hopefully within weeks, if not a very short time. So they're just trying to frame the narrative. Silly wabbits. And Carter Page, saw this from the Epic Times today. Carter Page suing the Department of Justice, demanding review of the IG report prior to its release. Carter Page, one of the former associates there with President Trump, let go a long time back. Now he's trying to stall. He's trying to stall this IG report from coming out. Why? Well, because Carter Page was a plant. Q told us that quite a long time ago, and it's pretty easy to see when you put the bigger picture together. Carter Page was a plant, one of them that got in there close to Trump, got out a long time ago. Now he's just trying to stall the release of this report. Cover his own ass, cover the ass of all his deep state buddies. So cover mode going on as the impending FISA report, man. Soon, very soon. And Flynn's case, too, goes hand in hand with what's going on with the FISA disclosures. So Sidney Powell, Flynn's lawyer, doing some interviews, filing in that case a lot of just groundbreaking information that, like I said, goes hand in hand with the FISA disclosures. FBI agents manipulated his file. James Clapper allegedly urged the kill shot against Flynn. Hopefully he was talking about metaphorical. Would I put it past these people to seem literal? I don't know. But very soon, Flynn will be exonerated very soon. Sidney Powell says the government's withholding evidence of her client's innocence, filing for that exculpatory evidence that somehow the Department of Justice just obtained. Maybe that was on Barr's trip to Italy, getting some phones, getting some maybe Mrs. Blackberries, some things associated with this. But anyway, Flynn's going to be exonerated soon, and once that IG report hits on the FISA abuses, I mean, that's like the start. That's why it's so strategic and tactical, and they're trying to get the mainstream public on board with it as much as they can right now. And that's the reason they're stalling it, really, is because they need to get the people on board for this, and not just like foaming at the mouth with Trump hate. So but once that starts, it's just going to snowball, and it's going to be crazy from there. So anyway, moving on from that, where are we going here? Snowden. Let's talk Snowden, man. Saw him on Joe Rogan. Wasn't really on Joe Rogan. You know, he had to patch himself in. Skype resume or whatever. Yeah, this was weird, man. This was weird. Pretty much every guest that Joe Rogan has more and more confirms for me that he is just like this CIA shill factory on his podcast. Like, truly, how many connections to the CIA or other rogue intelligence networks do the people on his freaking show have? Like, every other one now is connected to the CIA. And or some weird Freemasonry or occult belief systems. Like, it's crazy. And so Edward Snowden's on, saying all the Edward Snowden things. A lot of people believe that Edward Snowden is this white hat whistleblower that was trying to out the deep state, but just truly, like, basic questions with him. He worked for the CIA first, then he went to work for the NSA. He leaked all these details about the NSA. Why didn't he leak nothing about the CIA? Basic question. How does he have a blue check mark and 2 million followers on Twitter? If he was actually a threat to the deep state, that wouldn't happen. How does he get a Hollywood movie filmed after him? Blockbuster, big budget. That wouldn't happen if he was a threat to the deep state. Just basic question, guys. Edward Snowden's job was to go into the NSA, undermine the NSA, so the good guys in the military-industrial complex, in that realm, the intelligence community, the good guys couldn't get the dirt and keep track of the bad guys. Basically it. So Edward Snowden's a shill, saying really shilly things on Joe Rogan's podcast. And UFOs get brought up. That's like the main thing I saw reported all around the mainstream media the next day was Edward Snowden talking about his search for the UFO files in the NSA and CIA databases. Edward Snowden searched the CIA's networks for proof that aliens exist. And here's what he found. Man, Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan is pretty much like one of the propaganda outlets that they are going through right now to bring forth their UFO half-truths, partial truths, limited hangouts. Joe Rogan's the one that just plays dumb. You know, he plays dumb, he smokes, talks about DMT or whatever, and he's like the skeptical raptor, too. He plays those sort of archetypes when his guests are on, and he's really been having a lot of extremely questionable, in my opinion, guests on talking about UFOs lately. But Edward Snowden here, what did he say he find? Let's read about it. So, let's see here. It says, like any curious mind with access to the CIA's version of Google might do, he went in search of answers to some society's most pressing questions. And as it turns out, the U.S. government is not aware of any extraterrestrial life, he says. Well, that sounds like something a CIA asset tasked to lie to the public would say. For the record, as far as I could tell, aliens have never contacted Earth, or at least they haven't contacted U.S. intelligence. Snowden writes in his recent memoir, Permanent Record. Oh, he wrote that in his book. And the moon landing did indeed occur. In case you were wondering, yes, man really did land on the moon. Climate change is real, and chemtrails are not a thing. These are not the lines in the sky you're looking for. Chemtrail, or climate change, yeah. Believe that. And then the NSA whistleblower addressed the conspiracies again on Joe Rogan. There's no evidence of aliens, chemtrails, the like, etc., etc. Ha! Ha! Man, well, here's a few things with that, okay? Number one. Let's see here. There have actually been individuals, multiple individuals, that have hacked databases and found evidence of black projects, UFO technologies, ET life. Of course, there is famously Gary McKinnon in like 2000, I think 2001 or 2 is when he hacked into NASA and Navy databases and found the spreadsheets that said non-terrestrial officers and ship-to-ship transfers and what looked to be a secret space program. That was in 2001. There was another guy I heard of in 1998. I just learned about him recently. I can't remember the name right now for the life of me, but he also hacked into some databases. I believe actually Wright-Patterson Air Force Base there in Ohio. So with these things happening, you would think, well, oh crap, if the intel community is getting their stuff hacked, they're going to make it deeper, darker, more encrypted. What's to say they don't have some like quantum communication networks already in existence right now that they're using? And also, that being said, this particular type of information is extremely highly freaking classified. A lot of times, members of Congress or presidents of the United States, they're not read in the full depth of these compartmentalized projects. These USAPs, as they're sometimes called, unacknowledged special access projects. So that being said, it's not like there's always a paper trail. It's not like they're always going to be on all the networks and everything. Of all people, Snowden should know what compartmentalization is. So sure, he might be able to troll this network or that network on the NSA or CIA, but doesn't mean he's going to be able to see everything, right? There's a million things wrong with what Gary McKinnon is saying. So not sure if he's just an idiot or paid to say these things. Could be a little bit of both. Don't know, don't care. So that's that. And also, in terms of UFO shillery, let's talk Tom DeLonge. So Edward Snowden, Tom DeLonge. It's like two totally different angles that the mainstream media is putting out right now. And that's sort of showing you how they're gaslighting us. Is that on one hand, in the mainstream media, aliens are crazy, UFOs crazy, free energy is nuts, anti-gravity doesn't exist, all this sort of stuff. It's what they'll say. And then they'll go right around and say, no, UFOs, we got videos of these, and we got groups researching them, and we got shows on the History Channel now that are talking about it and confirming it. Disclosure, they're saying. So it's this gaslighting they're doing. And that's how they are dividing you. They're dividing you between the believer and non-believer camp. And they want to funnel you into those particular ones. In the believer camp right now, they're trying to funnel people into there because they're setting up a lot of gatekeepers around to create that echo chamber there of UFO believing, right? They're like trying to take over the UFO community with all of Tom DeLonge's bullshit. And not just the UFO community, but the mainstream public as well. They're trying to funnel people into here so they can get the partial truths. And Tom DeLonge's UFO research group signs a contract with the U.S. Army to develop far future tech. This was the headline earlier in the week. Now, I'm not surprised, and I'm not all super giddy go-go about this. First of all, it helps to have intelligence networks, friends in the CIA, friends in power, so probably helped make this happen. Number two, if Tom DeLonge is doing UFO research, why did he sign a contract with the Army? You would think that the Air Force would do it, or the Navy would do it, because didn't those videos that Tom DeLonge got come from them? Didn't they, redo their reporting guidelines? Wouldn't they want to get to the bottom of this? But no, it's the U.S. Army. So, I'm thinking, I actually tried to research a little bit into this Army Futures Command. It's like the organization that signed the contract with TTSA. It's not like it was the full Army with the Secretary of the Army signing it or anything. It was this small organization called the Futures Command. And I tried to research into the particular scientists, the people that were there for the Army, and I could only find one guy's name, a couple individuals' names, and not much on them. I wouldn't be surprised if this was like some cover agent in the Army there signing this contract. It's a whole just huge psyop with many different layers, right? The reason why Tom DeLonge is getting these contracts and getting all this media attention and all this stuff is purely the reason that it's been greenlit. It's been greenlit by the CIA to get this into their propaganda media and get it on their Hollywood television networks and all this stuff, get these contracts signed, and get this out there. It's been greenlit. It's the only reason. It's not a giant benevolent thing in nature. It's purely to divert attention away from deeper, more hardcore disclosures, things I was talking about earlier in the video. And it's also to brush the deeper, darker, or I should say the fuller picture of UFOs and the secret space program under the rug. People get distracted by videos in this little contract, and maybe Tom DeLonge will build some sort of anti-gravity craft. Great, but I want to know how many of them have already been built. I want to know how much money, how many billions and trillions have already gone into the black projects, what technologies they've been working on for a long, long time. That's the full truth. I don't care about these, not even half truths. They're like 0.5% of truth. So that's pretty much all I have for you guys here. We went through Q, we went through FISA, we went through pretty much everything I wanted to, UFOs and all that jazz, man. So hope you enjoyed this whole setup working with the tablet. I'll get more comfortable with it. It'll get more fun. And thank you all for hanging out with me for a little while here. More videos will be coming, most definitely. Not another week-long break. I won't make you guys withdraw from that. And then more whiteboard videos and all that stuff too. So if you want to support my work, go to the Patreon. You can go to jordansather.com. Links for all that will be below. Take care, everybody. Peace out. How do I... There we go.